So we got some exciting news the other day. I'm really excited that we're getting Nightrose in standard, but also the possibility of premium support. This is more of a raw video, so I'm just gonna really express my initial thoughts on it and also maybe some potential things in the future that we should probably expect. Because really at this point, we just know that they just reveal product. We don't know effects or anything like that, but more than likely Nightrose is still gonna have the same effect. That much we know at least. So with my initial thoughts, as you can see with the artwork, so it looks phenomenal for both avatars. Harri for Pale Moon, and of course Nightrose for Granblue. I'll be touching just Nightrose. I'm glad that we're gonna get to see Japan get it in September and see how that actually pans out. And then eventually we should get it by the end of the year for us in English. Who knows, maybe closer to Christmas time, or if not sooner. The sooner the better, right? Especially for BCS season coming up later this year. Of course, it comes with like the typical deck set with sleeves and everything. Those sleeves look really good, especially with the green. It definitely looks similar to her sword, but also gives it like that stoicheia feeling too. So what does this mean for standard moving forward too? So as we've seen with VANGUARD and also Shiranui deck sets, they keep getting better. So I expect that these two decks will definitely be one of the best pair of deck sets coming out after Shiranui and VANGUARD, of course. But we've already seen things too, like for Shiranui is a good example. So that deck on first strike can technically do 5 attacks with the addition of 2 domination attacks. So an opponent would have to deal with 7 attacks on first strike, essentially. Nightrose and Harri specialize on multi-attacking in their history since like G-era days, and then of course into what it is premium now, to that absurd number of attacks, if not more, depending if you have resources like Counterblast, Soul Blast units do chain attacks and so on, right? So now it begs the questions on the retrains. So for example, with the trial deck, we had like Grenache as the counter charger, but more than likely it could be the starter now. And so we need a counter charger for Granblue in general, because it's a Counterblast heavy type of clan, especially when it comes to deck building too. The other direction that Bushiroad could take this, because now we are using the energy mechanic, at least in standard, I hope they have optional costs and not where they just pigeonhole into just energy blast. And what do I mean by that? Is that, you know, if you're able to pay 1 CB to revive something versus like maybe energy blast 2 or 3 to revive something, give us the choice, because then in standard we have more flexibility, but also this support can be used with premium. If not, then premium players will get screwed if things are energy blast reliant. And don't get me wrong, Nightrose as a deck right now is actually one of the top decks in premium as well too. So I can see that, you know, it could make it tier 0 and it could be bad for a metagame in that respect too, and things will eventually get banned at that point, right? But I think we just want a good support that we can update our decks even in premium without feeling like we got screwed out over it because of the energy mechanic, if that makes sense too. However, with the additional costs, then that makes building in standard a lot easier too, because like if you don't have much counterblast and no much counter charge given in this deck, then we're kind of screwed out of luck on, or limited onto what we can do as well. Unless they routed some cards that are similar effects to Grenache, and we could just be good at that point. The other aspect is there's cards like Prize Trident and Clip and Dragon 2 that can technically go into Soul and give us a counter charge that way. But with typical Granblue usage, we're going to rely more heavily on Counterblast per turn. Just one counter charge isn't going to cut it long term, not at all. If you think about cards such as like Negroborn, Nightstorm, Negro Lazy, since like the original Nightrose G-Trial deck and even the first set of support, like all those units use Counterblast. Not only that, but they also have the hollow mechanic, so I wonder if they'll bring back that just like they did with Ritual with VANGUARD as well, and maybe tie in some things. What I'm also thinking about like the strides too, like first strike could be Obadiah. It could also be the Miss Phantasm Pirate Nightrose as well. And then the second main stride that we go into could be Twilight Nightrose at that point. Or it might be the Miss Phantasm Nightrose. So, you know, some kind of form of Nightrose essentially as the main second stride basically moving forward. The other potential aspect about this too, if we do keep Nightrose's original effects, we do have access to her GB2 skill. So this can be used to accelerate milling, or we can use potentially defensively. So if you think about like the old school plays with Cannoneer that can be revived with Nightrose directly, or the usage of like Negroglyph with G-Guarding, that could be a play potentially. But that also just depends if we have some type of cards that help enable that for us at will, essentially. An opponent that is not dumb enough to attack a cannoneer directly to proc your GB2 and then revive it and then you kill something vital for them, you know? That isn't gonna cut it, right? Also, that could come into like counterblast management too, so that's even more the need of countercharging per se. The other aspect too, I know people have been buying out some cards too, like Philander, you got the Sea Strike Inglarf, you know, cards like that, and even the other grade 3 that mills when it attacks and soul charges. Those are actually, you know, valid cards that I think that would potentially fit for Nightrose as well. We don't know entirely what the deck set provides, and those cards could be necessary, maybe as a playset, maybe as a few copies, and maybe none of it. We just don't know just yet. If you already have those cards, then you're pretty much in a good boat. If you don't, you're kind of fighting against what's in demand right now, which is unfortunate. Nobody saw this coming too, like Nightrose or Harri as a stride deck set whatsoever. But I do think that some milling would be needed to help expedite some of the drop zone buildup. So one other thing with granblue, yes, it has an advantage of using the drop zone. And then of course, cards like the, you know, being discarded by the right line is even more plus for us in a way. But at the same time, like if you're not building enough of a drop zone with quality, then what you have in your drop zone is mediocre, right? And so sometimes if you want to accelerate the milling to have more chances of cards that you want in the drop zone, cards that have been bought out or in demand are like those cards. One of the things that I did recently was a Cristiano's deck profile, and to help accelerate milling, I used cards like Bilber and Hendrina that build much more aggressively as well. And, you know, I feel like those cards may be worth playtesting as well, too. And other mill cards, too. And, of course, anything to soul charge as well. I'm very interested with Harri, too, because it is the first Accel clan that has gotten a Deckset / Crest. And I wonder if they'll try to balance it out with Harri specifically, because, or they make it somehow that it's not like crazy in premium, or maybe have a choice restriction. I have no idea. But that's a whole different video on its own, essentially. But with Nightrose, I think we're kind of safe, at least with premium, because it is a protect deck. So it's not like you're creating additional circles. It's really just abusing cards like Nightstorm, Beatrice, Negro Lazy, or any cards, Colombard, for example, and even the Franch back and forth that can just ping chain attacks that way too. And then, of course, your strides like Bad Bounty to rewrite the V Nightrose and then getting more attacks. That's also the other thing, like how much of the name are they restricting on the Nightrose name? Because there's actually multiple Nightroses that we have in premium, not to mention the V Series retrain. So if it just says Nightrose, we have access to every copy at that point. And if it's specific where it's like the Princess of the Night Fog, then it's just that one Nightrose. But it does have the V Series counterpart, which is still good. Like, I don't know if there's a way to restrict it, but that's something that Bushiroad would have to figure out at that point. This is really raw. These are my thoughts and things that I'm thinking about, you know, when it comes to like the news. We don't have much, again, so we can only speculate so much. And I am looking forward to this. I'm already talking to 50 Card Shop on pre-ordering my 4 deck sets. I found out the hard way that if you do get the premium deck set, you only get 1 Crest Giver. And that sucks for premium players, because you need 4 of those bad boys if you plan to use the Crest Giver, which 9 times out of 10 we have been using them in premium. So let me know your thoughts on this too as well. I'd love to hear your feedback and potentially some speculation or some other cards that you think are worth mentioning too or trying out. I know we'll be getting more support with future sets before this actually gets to us, so there's might be more better cards for this deck coming out soon that are outside of this deck set as well. And also, if you want to pick up some cards beforehand, you got to support the channel using the affiliate links like TCG Player, 50 Card Shop, Trading Card Min, Card Trader Zero. Any support is appreciated too, while saving you some money as well. Until the next one, amigos. Bye!